Everyone needs illustrations nowadays, but not everyone wants to spend a ton of money on special software to make them. Luckily, PowerPoint is actually an extremely powerful tool for illustrations, if you know how to use it. So here's a quick video to help you make great illustrations just using PowerPoint. Today's video, how the inner shadow function can turn sketches of humans to life. Here you can see a sketch I did of the human hand. This one is supposed to be flipping a coin. It's not a bad sketch, but it's a little flat, a little cartoonish. Let's make it a little bit more 3D. First, we should have a light source and a shadow in this picture to make it more 3D. And we do this with a gradient function. So I always like to do gradients where we have a light coming from one side, it will just how it comes from the left, and then have the opposite side, the right side, in darkness. Now, anytime it does a gradient with skin tones, it makes it too dramatic. There's just no way a light source coming from left has this much of the right, this darkly in shadow. So I will always get rid of the darkest part of the gradient and then move the middle part over so we have a less dramatic gradient, a more believable gradient for light shining from the left with the right in the shadow. Now I'll just apply that gradient to the remaining fingers. Okay, now we're starting to get a little bit more of a 3D effect. But we can really boost this 3D effect using the inner shadow function, a function I didn't even know existed despite making pictures in PowerPoint for months. And it's totally changed the way I do my drawing. So if you come here to the shadow menu, you see that there's this inner shadow function. And you can choose where your shadow is depending on where your light source is. So for us, it's coming from the left. So the right and bottom will be in shadow for our picture. So let's apply that. So you can see, as I apply this inner shadow function to each part of the hand, where the right and bottom are shadowed, you can see how it just makes that hand pop. And you can see the difference of how more three-dimensional it looks once we apply that inner shadow. Here's another example. This is a guy I did making jumping jacks. So I've already applied the gradient on the skin tone that we already had. I also do the same thing with his clothing. Light coming from the left, right in shadow. Light coming from the left, right in shadow. But we can go farther with the inner shadow function. So here on his face, let's think about where the shadow would be. Well, it would probably be underneath his chin. So for heads, I like to do the inner shadow function just underneath. Along his body, well, it's going to be on the right and underneath. So let's go ahead and give him a shadow on the right and underneath. On his neck area, you can see here, we also have shadowing on the right, and you can't see it, but underneath. Now let's do it with his shirt. Now for the shirts and the clothing, I tend not to do the underneath because they don't have as much bulk to have a shadow beneath them. So the shadow will just be along the right, where you get from the light shining from the left. And now you can see how just using that inner shadow function made him become so much more three-dimensional. So I'll tell you, use that inner shadow function. It will change the way you draw people, body parts, anything regarding humans. It really, really makes it pop. So now you know how to use it, and now you can go and do your own creation. If you like this video, you can like or subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TeachPlayGrub, because what more is there to life than learning, living, and eating? Thanks so much.